Thank you, Senator, for sitting down with The Guardian here in New Hampshire. How would, if you were to land in the Oval Office tomorrow, or even 14 months' time, what would you do more practically, immediately, to tackle the threat of ISIS?
Well, the only way we destroy ISIS is with Muslim boots on the ground, because if it's just American troops coming in, what do you think ISIS propaganda network is? Here come the Americans, here comes the West. Muslims around the world join us to take on the West. But he can't say that when it is Muslim troops destroying ISIS. We have got to be supportive of them. And by that I mean a broad coalition, including Russia, including the UK, including France, giving them air support. That's the type of coalition that has got to be aggressively put together.
Is there anything that you would do that Obama isn't already doing? I mean, what you've just described is the strategy, and it may well be the best strategy, but it's not working right now. Are you saying just be patient, guys? Or
well, first of all, I mean, sometimes we as Americans are not patient. And I think maybe the area that I would be a little bit different than Obama is that I would put more pressure on Saudi Arabia, on Qatar. Qatar happens to be per capita the wealthiest country on earth. They have got to start investing their resources to destroy ISIS, not just worry about the World Cup in 2022. My view is that in terms of foreign policy, regime change, without worrying about what happens the day after you get rid of the dictator, does not make a lot of sense. I voted against the war in Iraq. And God, I only wish that I had been successful in stopping that war, given all that has happened since with the rise of ISIS and so forth. Secretary Clinton voted for that war. She was proud to have been involved in the regime change in Libya with Gaddafi, without worrying, I think, about what happened the day after.
One area she's tried to draw a line between you two on is guns, where what puzzles me is that when you look at what you're proposing, assault weapons ban, background checks, these are pretty mainstream democratic positions than what Obama's been trying to do and others, and yet somehow you've been painted as this gun nut.
First of all, most significantly, guns should not get into the hands of people who everybody agrees should not have them. You know, if you are beating up your wife, if you're involved in criminal activity, if you are on a terrorist list, maybe you should not have a gun. I think most people agree with that. So that means improving and expanding the instant background check. There's a gun show loophole, which says that you can circumvent the instant background check by going to a gun show and getting guns. We got to deal with that. I happen to believe that certain types of assault weapons should not be used in civilian society. It is not very different from what Hillary Clinton or anybody else believes. But politics being what it is, they saw that as a vulnerability of mine because I come from a state that doesn't have any gun control. But I think we're handling it fine now.
So I wanted to talk about inequality, which is at the heart of what a lot you stand for. I'm not always completely sure how some of the things you suggest are going to necessarily fix it. How do you think you'll design a way of beating that?
Look, there's no magical solution, but today in America, we're living in a country which is moving quite rapidly toward an economic oligarchy and a political oligarchy. And when I talk about a political revolution, what I'm talking about is challenging and ending that type of oligarchy. And once you do that, then other things fall in place. It's not a question of rebuilding our infrastructure and creating jobs or making public universities and colleges tuition free. If you are prepared to tell Wall Street they're going to have to pay a tax on a speculation, we can provide public colleges and universities tuition free. So we have seen a massive transfer of wealth in this country in the last 30 years from the middle class to the top 1/10 of 1%. I intend to reverse that. And when you do that, a lot of good things can happen.
One sign that perhaps that is resonating, it seems to me, is that these are issues that other Democratic candidates are talking about now in a way that they weren't before you started campaigning. And to what extent do you think that's a sign that you've kind of won whatever happens, that you've shifted the debate?
Every poll out there has us winning, and sometimes very significantly among younger people. And people have got to look out there and say, my God, if we're worried about the future of the Democratic Party, we better start listening and paying attention to what Sanders' supporters want. And then you are seeing Hillary Clinton and others beginning to move in our direction. But ultimately, what the real issue is which candidate is prepared frontally to take on the billionaire class. Can you receive huge amounts of campaign contributions from Wall Street and the wealthiest people in this country and then say, well, I'm going to really take them on. The answer is no, you're not going to do that. I will. That's what I've been doing my entire life. My view today is that we have got to break up these huge financial institutions that have so much economic and political power. We have got to reestablish Glass-Steagall. That is not Secretary Clinton's point of view.
Last one for you. Who's scarier, Ted Cruz or Donald Trump?
They're scarier in different, they each have their issues.
But does it worry you that suddenly Ted Cruz is the sensible one? That somehow, after months of Trump, we're all looking at Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz is not a sensible one, maybe compared to Trump, but in no other context.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Senator. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Good talking to you.